Hello and welcome to Montgomery County Police Beat. I'm Patrick Lacefield, Director of Montgomery County's Office of Public Information. I'm here with Montgomery County Police Chief Tom Manger to talk about the importance of continuing the dialogue between the Montgomery County Police Department and the community to maintain understanding and trust. Chief Manger, thanks for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
Over the last couple of weeks, the Montgomery County Office of Human Rights, the NAACP, the Office of Community Partnerships, and the police have held a couple of community meetings to talk about police-community relations. And I think a lot of people were surprised that there were hundreds and hundreds of people who came out to these meetings, even in the dead of summer. Can you talk a little bit about what you heard out of those meetings?
Sure, and first of all, I was not that surprised that we had the crowd that we did. I think that the topic of police-community relations is such a hot one at this point that it would get good participation from the public. And so I was glad when we went to Silver Spring and we had 500 people. Next night we went to Germantown. We had probably 250, 300 people there. But what was most important was what they had to say. And you know, folks have different experiences with the police, and they have opinions and they have concerns. And I think one of the most important things that government leaders, including police chiefs, need to do is listen to what people have to say and listen to their concerns. People want to be heard, and it is important for us to be there to hear what they had to say. So, you know, a lot of folks talked about specific instances where they had contact with the police and they didn't feel like the police handled it the way they should have. They had concerns about you know, stories about family members, that sort of thing. And there were also a few people that had, you know, very complimentary things to say about the police. But I think that what the message that I came away with were two things. One, that clearly additional work needs to be done by the police department to earn and keep the public's trust. And you do that with every contact that we have with them. We do that by holding ourselves accountable for what we do and how we do it. And then the second issue was we need to continue our outreach to the community, which we do relentlessly. I mean, we do a lot of community outreach, but we really need to focus on young people. You know, so many of the meetings that we have, the average age of the person there is, you know, 40, 50, 60 years old.
Right.
And that's great. Those are important residents. But, you know, you're not talking to the teenager or to the 20-something, you know, that really perhaps have more concerns or fear of the police. And so we have already begun a number of strategies talking about some additional things that we can do to really target our outreach to the youth. And my hope is that you know, a year from now, if we do these town hall meetings again, that we see some impact of the outreach that we're doing to young people.
Now, I know based at the meetings, you had a lot of your officers there at the meetings. In other words, the people who were there were not just people from the public, but you wanted a lot of your officers there to hear it.
I did, and it's exactly why I had them there, is because it's all well and good for me to hear what the public has to say, but nothing is better than hearing it firsthand. And so I think that, and it wasn't just my senior staff. I mean, I had some assistant chiefs there and my district commanders there, but there were cops there. I mean, they were working cops there that, you know, that was their beat, or, you know, they worked in that particular area. And so they were there to hear some of the public's concerns as well. And what I really was gratified about was that, you know, after someone would get up and say, you know, I had this experience with the police where, you know, I got stopped and the police officer said this or that, and I just felt like, you know, I had questions about this and was concerned about, you know, some aspect of the interaction. You would see, you know, one of my cops walk up to the person after they, you know, said what they had to say to talk to them. Right. And to, you know, maybe answer some of their questions, forth, yeah. or you know, or say, hey, you know, is this something that we can look into for you? You know, right. There was a young woman, and I think she looked to me to be a teenager, a young African American woman, who probably had the most emotional statement of any of the one who spoke, and talked about some really bad interactions that she'd had with police. And she spoke about just how, you know, they've impacted her life, her young life. I mean, this girl couldn't have been more than, I think, 15, 16 years old. And she showed up the next night in Germantown. She'd spoken in Silver Spring, showed up the next night in Germantown. and then and had a little different message than she'd had the night before, and then stayed after the meeting and spoke with me and spoke with a couple other of my officers, because what she said was, she said, "Chief, I don't want to feel this way about the police."
Right.
She says, "I want to feel better, and I
Right.
want to, get on, so that I
So
don't."
how do we get there?
Right.
Right. Yeah.
And so we arranged for some follow-up meetings with the young woman, and I see that as a great success story.
Mm-hmm.
And there were lots of follow-up meetings that came from those two town hall meetings, and there's other follow-up things that the Human Rights Commission and NAACP are partnering with us, to think about, okay, where do we go from here? How do we, move this? It was great to hear folks talk. Now, what do we do about it?
Now, you've said in the past that one of the things that you try and do is hire the best people to be police officers, give them training, and then hold them accountable. Of course, police community issues is center stage in American politics right now. What kind of job do you think the Montgomery County Police Department does on this?
I can tell you that it's tough for me to say, because
It's your department.
it is, but I think we do a pretty good job at it.
Right.
But we're not perfect.
Right.
And so when I look at the issues that we're dealing with, when something's going right and we're having success and things are going well, I don't pay as much attention to that as I do to, okay, where are our problems?
Right.
So day to day, I'm focused on the issues that really need improvement. So
Right.
I might my point of view might be a little I guess biased in the direction of, I know we have things that we need to improve on.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're doing a lot of good things. You talk about hiring the right people. I look back to the way we did things 20, 30, 40 years ago, and the process, the background investigation, the psychological evaluations we do, the characteristics that we really try and target in people that we think are going to make them good police officers. We do a much better job at that today than we've done in the past. So I think we are hiring the right people. But again, it's not a perfect science. You're still going to occasionally hire someone that it turns out they're not a very good police officer. And so we have to deal with that then. The training, I think that's probably where we have really improved the most over the years. We understand the importance of de-escalation training, the importance of use of force training for officers, so that we want to make sure that our officers are in fact trained to do the job the way it's supposed to be done. And I think that that's probably where I would give us the highest marks. And then in terms of accountability, there's nothing more important. I mean, you've got to hold everybody accountable, that wears this badge, and it starts with me. And I need to be held accountable for what I'm responsible for and for what my actions, my decisions, and down to every single patrol officer who's working a beat, and every interaction they have, because we, the police department, are evaluated by every single interaction that we have with the public.
Now, let's say somebody has a beef with the police department or with a police officer as they go about their duties. What would you advise them as to how to air that beef?
I always tell people, you need to, if you're not happy with something that happened, you've got a complaint, you've got to let us know. And if you don't want to talk to the police department, talk to the Human Rights Commission, talk to the NAACP, there's any number of, write the county executive, if you don't think that, you're going to get, it's going to get attention. But I can tell you, and I 100% guarantee, when somebody complains to the police, I make sure that it's investigated appropriately.
Right.
And because I think we have
Because
to.
you want to do the best job possible.
Absolutely. And, there's times when, you find that the police officer, did things right, but the person just wasn't happy. There's times when you find out the police officer made a mistake. There's also times when you find out the police officer intentionally did things wrong. Now, and you've got to deal with that. You've got to deal with that decisively, so that you can retain the trust that you have from the public. If you just allow police officers to do things and not be held accountable for mistakes and for misconduct, you're not going to keep the public's trust very long.
Right.
And there are police departments around this country that have real issues with that.
That have lost the trust.
That have lost the trust. We have. I mean, according to all the surveys that we see, we have a great deal of trust and confidence of the public in Montgomery County. But again, this is where I could say, hey, it says that 80% of the people here think it's good or good or great,
Right.
in terms of the police department.
Right.
But you know what I'm focused on? I'm focused on that 17% that don't think that
it's
we're
fair
very
or
good.
poor.
Yeah. And so those are the communities I need to outreach to. Those are the folks I need to focus on to make sure that we're doing everything we can to earn their trust.
Right.
And prove to them that we're here to serve them and serve them fairly and without bias and with all good intentions.
Now, one piece of technology, of course, that's a piece of this is body cameras.
Yes.
And Montgomery County has a body camera program. Police have been wearing body cameras. How's that going?
It's going great, I think. I've been wearing this body camera for a year, over a year now, and went from a pilot program to by summer's end, we will have each one of our patrol officers. So there'll be probably close to 900 cameras out on the street. We probably have 800 out there now.
Mm-hmm.
So most patrol officers have them. We're finishing up the last few training sessions to get everybody equipped. Now, not every police officer is wearing them. We're not giving them to detectives and some of the more specialized positions. But everybody who's out working patrol, working a beat, responding to calls for service, they're wearing cameras.
Recently, you had the opportunity to be at the White House, speak with President Obama. Mm-hmm. In the wake of the murders of police officers in Dallas, as well as other incidents. Talk a little bit about that conversation. Well,
I certainly appreciate. I mean, I was really surprised that it actually the vice president had called a meeting of law enforcement leaders from around the country, and it was a very small meeting. There's only 8 of us there, and I've met probably a dozen times with the vice president on criminal justice issues and police issues. He's been very active, with national policy and training and that sort of thing. So when we went to this meeting, I thought there was just another meeting with the vice president, which are always useful. But the president showed up, and not only did he show up, he was there for 2 hours. And for 2 hours, we talked about what's going on around the country, the concerns of police officers, the concerns from our point of view that the public has with police. We talked about what social media has done to influence public opinion about police. And it was a very frank discussion, and I really was appreciative that he spent so much time with us. I'll tell you one point he made that I thought was important was he said, sometimes we ask our police officers to do too much. He says there are, things that happen in our community, in our society that, poverty, homelessness, unemployment, bad schools, that police, police having to react to, but we're not the people to solve those issues.
Right. Chief Manger, thanks for joining us. This has been a great conversation.
Thank you.
I'm Patrick Lacefield, along with Montgomery County Police Chief Tom Manger. Thanks for watching, and please join us again next time for Montgomery County Police Beat, when we'll get answers straight from the chief about law enforcement issues that matter to you.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb. But if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Underage drinking and driving. The ultimate party foul.
Todd's a great guy. I mean, look at him. What a sweetheart. Attaboy. Wait, Todd, what are you doing? How totally selfish and un-Todd-like of you. Come on, Todd. Come on, man.